Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Shirley Talk. I'm Mike Mulroney.
I'm Kelly Duckworth.
What's so funny over there? You making fun of me again?
Yeah, counting to 10 seconds on your fingers.
I can't count. I was getting ready to take my shoes off and use my toes for the 10. So, Kelly, are you a doctor?
No.
Nurse?
No.
Pharmacist?
Nope.
Anything in the medical profession?
Nope.
Tax, accounting?
Nope.
And we're just average people. So we go through this every time because if you hear us say something, us or our guests, please get professional advice. Okay, so don't take our word for it. Go ask somebody that actually might know. This is opinions and education, and I hate to say entertainment, but sometimes we have a little fun.
A little bit.
Yeah. So today we got our good friend Miss Tammi Poole in here today. How you doing, Tammi?
I'm good, thank you.
I don't want to put you on the spot, and I really hesitate to do this, but I want to get your reaction on this. So how was your McDonald's trip this morning?
They've really stepped their game up. I've not had anything to complain about the last 3 times I went.
You crack me up on your McDonald's post every morning, and it's usually something funny as can be. So
they've really, it's a double-edged sword. They've surprised me and disappointed me all at the same time.
I wonder if your posts have gotten back to corporate somewhere, and they've kind of made some adjustments. Or they're watching Chick-fil-A, which, as we were talking earlier, is like the golden child of fast food.
So I'm lost. What's been going on with McDonald's?
There's always something.
So a few years ago, I started posting about my trips to McDonald's. Every morning I would stop to get a Coke after I dropped my kids off at school. And it was always something. Most people would have stopped going. Not me. No, I went just to see if they could up themselves the next time. And they have for like 3.5 years. So it's become kind of a cult following. Everybody wants to hear my McDonald's on Dixie
That's hilarious.
updates. So I started hashtagging them. I've had people ask me to like download them into like a hardcover book.
Oh my gosh.
It's hilarious.
They may or may not have Diet Coke one day, or the ice cream machine is always off.
Always.
So anyway, it's just hilarious. I thought that was funny to
That is
start
pretty funny.
start the set off with. So I've known Tammi for a long time, longer than Kelly's been born probably. We went to high school together, and I would always sit next to her on the bus. And it's hard to believe we rode a school bus back then.
I know.
I was trying to remember when we started riding the school bus, and my sister was old enough to drive. I don't know. It's been a long
walk
time.
to the school bus stop.
Yeah,
and
uphill.
10 foot of snow.
Yeah, we
Both
could
ways.
have, yeah. During football season, I did have to walk home because I couldn't get anybody to bring me home. So those were the good old days.
That was a long walk.
It really was. Yeah.
Especially after practice.
Yeah, they would run us to death, and I'd have to walk home. Wasn't too bad, but anyway, it was fun. But, I've known Tammi. We've known each other for a long time, and you started your cancer journey how long ago?
8 years.
8 years, and you went through, they threw the kitchen sink at you, it sounds like.
I actually was scheduled for my very first ever mammogram, just regular old mammogram. But in between the time I scheduled it and the time that it was supposed to happen, I found a lump. So when I was there, I actually asked them, they weren't super busy, and I said, hey, would you mind, my doctor's upstairs, would you mind calling and asking if we could do a diagnostic rather than a baseline? And they asked,
How did you know that?
how did I know to ask?
Yeah.
I've worked in the medical field all my life.
Yeah.
So
most people wouldn't know to ask that question.
yeah. So I started working when I was a teen in the doctor's office that my mom worked in, just helping, stuff envelopes, just stuff for extra money. And I've just stayed that path.
So while you were stuffing envelopes, you were ear hustling everything going around the office.
Well, I did graduate to front office and then also some medical assisting. So yeah. She said, sure, I'll ask. And my doctor said, that's fine. So I kind of skipped one procedure and a couple of weeks wait. Which was good because they literally called me that afternoon. I knew something was wrong when I could tell when they were doing, because they did an ultrasound after the mammogram, which is part of the diagnostic piece. And I could tell by the way they were moving the paddles around that they had found something because it was, up under my arm. It was places it shouldn't have been.
My wife, Jenny, she says anytime she has that done, she's watching the reaction of the person doing it. And it sounds like that's what you were doing to see if they had an interesting facial expression.
Yeah, I was totally reading the room.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is the way it went. And I'm going to give you the quick and dirty because that's the whirlwind that it was. I had that ultrasound and mammogram. I had to go the very next day for a biopsy. Went the day after that to my regular doctor for her to give me the results. Went to the oncologist on Thursday. I was in surgery for a port on Friday. I started chemo on Tuesday.
Holy smokes.
So it was Monday to Tuesday. That's how fast that went.
So they went straight to chemo, not surgery?
Yes, they wanted to shrink the tumor before they tried to operate. Let me back up to my actual diagnosis. I was diagnosed with stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer. Inflammatory breast cancer typically does not form tumors. I was very lucky in that respect. Even though I was stage 3, it was very lucky for me because when most women with inflammatory breast cancer are diagnosed, they're well into stage 4 because there's no tumor. It feathers through the breast, so you don't feel it. And by the time you have physical symptoms, which is like some pitting in the skin, maybe some discoloration of the skin, you're already stage 4.
So that tissue is cancerous, but it doesn't necessarily form a lump that most people would find.
Right.
Wow. That's incredible. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the case. I always thought it started with a lump, and that's what people noticed. So does the 3D scans and stuff like that kind of help with identifying that type of thing? I mean, most of the scans are looking for lumps or groups of cells, I would imagine. So I would think if you hadn't asked, they may not have found it early enough.
I think they would have found mine because it was my very first ever mammogram. So even if they were just doing a baseline, the tumor was pretty significant in size. It was about the size of a quarter. So I don't think they would have missed it.
So you said 8 years ago. Now, not to cut you off, but I know how old you are. So 8 years ago, that seems like a kind of late for a first-time mammogram, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. All right. Just pointing that out, ladies. So everybody, the key is catching it early. So,
exactly.
But I just wanted to point that out for people. So you said it was the size of a pea. Is that what you were saying?
The size of a quarter.
A quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they had a pretty good. Obviously, they had a plan in place pretty quickly. A friend of ours just diagnosed. We were talking about it before, and she's outed herself on Facebook. So anyway, but I'm not going to mention her name. But they're taking her straight to surgery. That's why I asked. They went to chemo first versus surgery.
Yeah, I think sometimes it depends on the type of cancer. What is it? Estrogen receptor positive? Is it? There's so many different types of breast cancer, and what does the tumor look like? Has it spread? For me, it had moved into my lymphatic system. They removed 20 of my lymph nodes, and 10 of those had cancer in them.
So it spread.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think hers is pretty where it's supposed to be. So it sounds like they had to chase a bunch of cancer in your body versus in a central location.
Yep.
I guess that makes more sense. But the chemo, I think I don't think people really understand what the drugs do to you. It made you pretty deathly ill for a while you're going through the treatments. Is that correct?
Chemo, I had adriamycin and Taxol in that order. Adriamycin, you will hear people say the red devil, and it's the devil. Mm-hmm. I think the nausea and the fatigue are on a scale I could not vocalize to you for you to understand. And
there's nothing really, they try to give you medicine for that, but for some people it does, and some people it doesn't work.
Yeah, I literally, that's a level of, I don't even want to use the word tired, but to equate it, that is a level of tired I can't describe to you. I mean, literally not having the energy to just raise your head up in the morning. And the cycle that happens, you get chemo, and the next day you feel pretty good, and the next day you feel okay, and the third day, I always called it Mack truck day. Mm-hmm. That's when everything hit. And then it would be 3 days. And then you'd get about a day and a half before you had your next one.
Started all over.
Well,
that's encouraging to go to, knowing you're going to have to go through that again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some people get up in the morning, I don't feel like doing anything today, but but you're caring for 2 now, so.
Yeah, but I have no room to talk. That's
I know women who continue to work when they're going through treatment. And one, I think they're superhuman. Luckily, I had good insurance. I had disability insurance that I was still having at least some money coming in. I couldn't imagine attempting to work going through that part of treatment. There's no way.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it either. And like you said, they're superhuman. But I read Lance Armstrong's book, and he had testicular cancer, and he talks about in the book a few times where he would just be curled up in a ball in a corner of his room, so sick that he couldn't move. And I think that happens to a lot of people. So I don't understand how some people can get through it and some others can't.
It's got to be just the makeup of who they are. And again, because there's different types of cancer, even the chemos are different.
Yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of that plays a factor, but any chemo, anybody that can work on any type of chemo, I
don't get it either.
Well, you mentioned you had kids earlier. Were they young? I mean, did you still have to be, mom of the household? And...
I have 5 children.
Oh my goodness. I'm freaking out about one.
2 of them are older. There's 12 years in between my 2 sets. I had one start in college and one start in kindergarten at the exact same time.
Oh my goodness. Sounds like me.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I had older kids and I had little kids.
And your husband's a kid.
He is my 6th child. You are spot on.
Anybody
that knows him will
funny.
agree. But my oldest daughter struggled because she was at UK and she felt like she needed to be home. And I told her, we've got this. What I need you to do, so it's one less thing I worry about, take care of you. Take care of school. You're on scholarship. You have to get the grades, because if you don't keep that scholarship, then I have to pay for school. So you go do you, we'll be fine. And then I had little ones, and this is totally off, but I have to tell you all this story. We had a house fire last year, and we essentially had to pack up the whole house and move out and then move back in. Well, in the midst of doing that, the mediation company that got everything and cleaned it and packed it back up, Carrie Lynn had made an ornament in school, and it was pieces of paper, and they were folded a certain way, and they were glued that it made kind of a sphere, but they had pictures and had written messages, and it had gotten kind of smushed. God love the woman there. She pulled it out, fixed it, and then put it in a box, lots of tissue paper, put it in a box by itself, wrote a note on it about how it touched her, and she just felt she had to save it. And the ornament was from the oldest of my little ones. She wrote a message to God and said, please make my mommy okay and let her live.
Wow. That's pretty special. You don't find many people that would take the time to do it. So this was one of the movers helping get your stuff out of your house.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And in such a crazy world and people in this day and age, that's pretty special.
Yeah, they were fantastic, and we were we were blessed through a house fire, but we really were. Some things that have happened because of the house fire have been a true blessing, and actually 2 of the ladies that helped us out have become friends of mine. So
that's cool. Yeah. You kind of have that personality.
I don't know. I never meet a stranger. I own that. It's a badge of honor.
Yeah. So you're going through your treatments, and you had the surgery, and the stuff was making you nauseous and sick and extremely tired, and you've got through all that. Now what? I see often that you're having different issues like is it neuropathy? What's that? I don't know what that is.
Neuropathy is nerve damage. Most people that you hear that have neuropathy are diabetics. Most people get it in their hands and feet. You can get it in your legs and your arms, but typically with people with chemo, it's hands and feet. My feet did get better. They will occasionally go numb, but they don't hurt like they did when I was going through chemo. But my hands have never recovered. My hands are always numb. Kind of like that, like you laid on your arm wrong and it goes to sleep feeling.
Get that tingling.
Yeah, that's kind of how my hands feel.
Oh, that's the worst feeling.
All the time.
I don't like
It
that
feels
feeling.
good when it comes back, though, for whatever reason.
I don't
But
like
it doesn't come back.
Yeah,
It's like
that's,
literally
funny.
from the middle of my palm to the tips of my fingers. My thumbs not so much, but my fingers.
So does it make hard? I guess obviously it's hard to use them. I mean, it doesn't come back. Does it take an hour or so for things to kind of so you can start operating again? I guess.
If I move them a lot, I get it's a little better. When I'm idle, it definitely gets number. But I've been known to have a glass in my hand and I just drop it.
I've done that before, but it had nothing to do with chemo.
Different kind of poison.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But speaking of that, I don't think people understand what the chemo and stuff does, but basically it's poison.
Yep.
They're injecting poison in your body to help kill the cancer cells. and then they have to pump it back out. Is that correct? They pump it in, it's supposed to do its thing, and they have to get it out of your system somehow.
Well, with this is like way too much TMI, but with the Red Devil, literally when you go to the bathroom, your pee comes out orange.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know if it's sweated out. You know, when you lose weight, it comes out through your breath. But all these things have ways of exiting the body.
yeah. I mean, it pretty much follows the typical path.
Yep.
But like the adriamycin, it literally is like stop sign red in a bag, and then it comes out
Yeah.
orange.
Wow.
Huh.
And pretty much when it goes back to its normal color, you know it's made its way through your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah, thank God it's getting out. So it's
Now with the Taxol, that's a whole different ball all on its own. I literally spent 40 minutes of my infusion time. The first 40 minutes wasn't even chemo. It was pre-meds because people react to Taxol. I'm going to equate it to like an allergic reaction. Like literally pump you full of Benadryl, which is, let me just tell you, you mainline some Benadryl, that's a great high.
yeah,
Like,
great hires that put you to sleep. I heard it has different effects on different people.
It's both. That first 10, 15 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, this feels really good.
Great. Now they're
and-
going to start putting
and-
Benadryl not behind the counters of the pharmacies.
and then you
Crackheads are going to start taking that.
and then you go to sleep. Trust me, if any crackheads are listening, it's not quite the same. If it's
So with that, you actually go to sleep with that chemotherapy?
the Benadryl will knock you out if you're not doing something to keep your mind busy, then you'll just doze off.
Yeah.
I always have my tablet, and I was either playing a game or checking emails or whatever.
Some of it could take all day to administer the drugs, or did it take a couple hours?
For me, luckily, when I was on the adriamycin, it was actually wound up being about the same time because there was more of the chemo solution with adriamycin than the Taxol. The chemo solution was less, but the pre-meds kind of took up that time. So I was usually there, hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, it affects people differently. I remember seeing, if you remember Tony Nort, before he died, he was taking all those treatments, and he would sit in there with his laptop and actually work. And, I'm sure he was miserable the next day because that's usually when it hits you or hours later. But he would sit there and work and, do his day job.
Yeah, there are some chemos it's more like literally like an infusion, like same as I've got friends that have MS. Kind of the time frame reminds me of the same because when my friend goes in for an infusion, it's an all day thing.
Pack a lunch.
Yeah.
What about those cool new packs they're giving people? Amanda was in here the other day, and she'd carry her chemo around with her, and it would actually infuse. I guess, did you do any of that?
No, was not an
I
option.
say cool packs. I'm making fun of it, but it's I always thought it was a purse, and she'd say, "No, it's my chemo. I'm walking around," and it was, I guess, slowly dripping into her system.
Yep.
She was
that
taking
must have
it.
been some nasty stuff if they wanted it to go in that slow.
Yeah,
That's what my mom had.
yeah, she carried a pack around.
But I mean, it gave her the freedom to do what she wanted to do too, so she didn't have to be stuck in a chair all day.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, it went in her port, and it would just, I think it was 3 or 4 days, and then she'd go back and they'd take it out.
Like a slow drip or something.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you came in today, I saw. Speaking of packs.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew you were out of treatments, and I saw that, and you pointed out. So you got other issues going on because of the treatments.
Yes. So on July the 5th
This year.
of this year, wasn't feeling really well. Wound up going to the hospital, and come to find out, and I'm going way back past where we started, but to preface how I got here, I had a hernia that had strangulated my intestines, so I had to have emergency surgery. While I was in the hospital, I had what I thought was an asthma attack. And I kept telling them, I think I need a breathing treatment, and they were not receptive. And finally, I got their attention to the point where I was panting like a dog. They had respiratory come in, and the next thing I know, I got a breathing treatment, but they started pumping me full of Lasix.
Who?
Lasix.
I don't know what that is.
That's a super duper diuretic.
They were
Okay.
like a water pill, but like a
But this was intravenously. I've never had that before. No one really explained to me what that was and why. So fast forward a month later, I'm getting to the point where I can't breathe again. And I'm thinking, why is my asthma doing this to me? then the inhaler wasn't doing anything. So I finally told my husband, I said, I have to go to the ER, which I didn't, during COVID, last place in the world you want to go.
Yeah.
Within 20 minutes of being there, I was already in the ER, in a bed. And by 4 hours later, I'm in a room. Come to find out, what had started back then to now, I have congestive heart failure. It was not asthma. It was my chest full of fluid because my heart was so weak it couldn't pump the fluid out of my body.
And all this is because of the chemo and probably the radiation that has done so much damage to your body. You're a walking medical experiment at this point.
I know.
Are they paying you to come in now versus you paying them? I mean, for all the stuff that you've had go wrong, it's ought to be experimental at this point.
You would think I should be in textbooks at this point, but I through the tests that they give you to find out what's causing this heart failure, my arteries, I was told, are pristine. Like my calcification score is 0. I mean, when they called me, they were like, your arteries look phenomenal. That was the last test that they did that basically told them that, yeah, this is definitely weakening of the heart mostly because of the chemo.
I'm just baffled by that. So now you're walking around with something that could shock your heart if your heart stops.
Yes. So to your point, this is a battery pack and a readout for what they call a life vest. So I'm wearing a portable defibrillator.
Does it have a backup battery?
I do have 2. It's like, your DeWalt, you plug one
Yeah, I
in
was
and
gonna
use
ask,
the other one.
how long do you have to plug that
I
thing
mean,
in?
is this like 24/7? Like, do you have to wear it in the shower?
It is 24/7.
So many questions.
I can take
I
it
know.
off long enough to take a shower, but then I have to put it back on. But I have to sleep in it. It's miserable because, I'm tethered, by
Yeah.
this wire.
And that's just somehow connected to your heart? Or
It's honestly, it's like having a bra on backwards.
Huh.
And it's the plates, like if you were going to shock somebody, they normally do it in the front. The plates are on my
it
back.
has plates.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's on my back, underneath here, but it does have the leads all the way around. So it's, constantly monitoring my heart. And then if my heart does something stupid, like stop, it'll give me an alarm.
Oh my
If I'm awake.
It doesn't sound like your phone, does it? You want to
No.
make sure it's different.
No, most definitely not. But if I'm awake, I'm supposed to hit this button and this button at the same time to turn it off so it does not shock me. Then I'm supposed to call 911. But if for some reason my heart stops and like I pass out and I can't help myself, if I don't turn it off or someone else doesn't turn off, which I hope they won't if I'm completely out, it will shock me. So I asked the doctor, I said, well, what happens if I can't get to
press
it
both
fast
of
enough
them.
and I'm awake? And he said, it won't be pretty. It'll knock you on your butt and you'll probably pee your pants.
Well, basically, electrocute yourself.
Oh my gosh.
So
I got a TENS unit that I used to put on, and I'm sure
Yes.
but one of the wires came loose, and I grabbed it, and I'm thinking about it. It shocked the hell out of me. I mean, it scared me to death.
Hate
I didn't know
being
it would
shocked.
shoot that much power through there, but I guess it's got to start your heart. So, you walked in here all smiles, joking, laughing. How do you, I don't know. I'd be a mess, but.
I have my days. Don't get me wrong. Monday it was a bad day. Mentally and physically, I was tired all the way around.
Yeah.
They're few and far between. I tell people all the time because I help a lot of people, especially if they're newly diagnosed, so they know what to expect because it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the reasons why we do these.
Yeah. So I tell them, and I told my family, because everybody wanted to have that what if story, what if conversation with me. I'm like, I'm not having a what if conversation because there is no what if. I have a goal, and that's what's going to happen. So, I kind of spoke what my truth in my heart was to myself and to the universe. And I said, I'm going to beat this. And that was the mindset that I had. And, every day is a new day. I get up no matter how bad I feel because every day it hurts to get out of bed. I don't have a day that I don't have pain in my body, thanks chemo. But it sure beats the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lost so many friends, and I would be doing a disservice to those who didn't beat it to continually have a pity party. I think that I was spared for a reason. A lot of people will talk about their purpose. And I've always said my purpose after this was to help other people. And I do that in a myriad of ways. But one of the biggest ways I do that is, I talk to other women and, I prepare them for, what's coming up next. And I tell them if it's going to be ugly, I tell them because they need to know.
Yep.
Because the shock of the ugly is what I struggled with the most. And the ugly being, the hard stuff, something as simple as your hair.
Yeah.
I didn't let cancer take my hair. I handed the clippers to my husband, and the next thing I knew, I had a mohawk.
Yeah, he's got a good sense of humor.
For a minute. But, then I had two beautiful friends who took me to a wig shop. And, I was on a budget because I'm thinking, holy crap, I still have all the bills I have, plus I'm going to have more, and I'm not going to be working. I can't spend that kind of money on a wig out of, vanity's sake.
Mm-hmm.
I had two beautiful friends that said, nope, you're not going to be anything less than fabulous. Let's go. And they bought my wig for me.
Yeah, and your hair is not hard to mimic. You've got beautiful hair, but it's not like Amanda comes in, she's just got long hair like Kelly's, and that's a little easier. But they found something that did pretty well for you, really.
Well, I actually had two wigs. I had a friend that gave me one. So I kind of had my sassy wig, and then I had my, okay, I can be a respectable, mom wig.
Yeah.
But I called, one of them was Lola, because, Lola gets what Lola wants. And the other one was Victoria, because she was just a little sassy.
So just depending on how you felt that day is which one you put on.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm just...
I think we should do that now. It's kind of fun.
I always said I wanted a wig.
Well, and I'm not a hat person. I've never been a hat person. My face is entirely too round to throw a ball cap on. It just doesn't work. So I had to have some hair. And, I was the same way about having my face on. That makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. My husband would get so upset because some days it would take a bit to be able to, put a face on if I was going out of the house. I would tell him I'm going to go channel my inner drag queen. I'll be right back. But we were sitting in church one Easter Sunday, and there was a lady, I could see her off to my left. She had a scarf on. She's very pale. And my husband goes, oh, that poor thing. And I was like, see, that's why I put my face on and put my wig on. I don't want people to look at me like that because I'm fighting. This is, round 3, ding, ding. I'm not this poor little pitiful person. I'm a fighter, and I want to fight, and I don't want people to just, oh, you poor thing. That's not the dynamic that I wanted my life to be at that point. Right. So I would draw my eyebrows on. They didn't look great, but by God, I had some. Put my false eyelashes on, my wig, and went out and kicked butt.
Well, that's very important for women. Most guys, we would struggle, but not in that way. When my mom was dying, Kim Paget would come over, and I'm okay saying her name because what she did was amazing. She'd come over and make my mom's nails. My mom loved her nails. So, she'd come over and do it, and she'd massage her hand and stuff like that. And, it's pretty special.
Well, and honestly, as a woman, breast cancer is devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew me when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was literally 98 pounds. I was a 32D. My dad did not want me to walk out of the house.
I remember that.
So whether it's right or whether it's wrong, that is a part of a woman's identity.
Yeah.
And when it is ripped from your body and the insurance will not replace it to what it used to be, there's a cap. 800 cc's, that's it. Doesn't matter if it makes you look normal or not. That's it.
They don't put you back to the way you were?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
And not only that, if you have radiation, you get it after reconstruction. So what happens is the side that they radiate, the skin and the muscle, tightens.
Didn't one of yours burst or something?
Yes, I had. Well, it wasn't my implant. It was my tissue expander.
Okay. I knew something happened
Yeah.
in the middle of that, and I couldn't remember what it was. So.
But even after all of this, now this one sits up here and this one sits kind of like humanly normal. So I really can't even go without a bra because if you really look, it's lopsided because this radiation has drawn all this up. And he's tried to lift this one, but it'll never be the same because the skin and muscle is so tight. So I'm still okay with it because my clothes fit better and it's still closer to who I used to be, but I'll never be who I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible, and I hold insurance companies responsible for this crap because, I know where you work, but I say that because I think a lot of times they could do a little more to help the person feel a little more normal. But I just don't understand why they pick and choose and things like that. But obviously that's a discussion for another day. But I wish they would be a little more lenient to help the person put them back together a little more like they were, you know?
Yep.
I
I
just
mean,
really
what is
think it
800
would.
cc's? Like, what cup size is that?
Right at a C.
Mm. Yeah, so noticeable. From a
But
D.
if you're like me and yours was so invasive, the amount of tissue that they take out, it wasn't like they just went like this and it was gone.
Right.
It's like this.
They cut into
So
it.
my chest was
So your
like
C
this.
is really like a B.
So exactly. So, my implant sits in, back into my chest.
right.
Yeah. Going into that and talking about the changes and things like that, we did a podcast once on things to say and not to say to people who are fighting cancer. And a friend of ours posted something the other day, and a lot of people thought it was funny, and it was offensive. And, what are things that people say that really drive people insane that have went through what you've went through? I know one of them, and Christine, what's her name? She was on Married with Children. You don't even know what that show. What's her name? Christina Applegate.
Yep.
She made a statement one time that says, "You know what? I'm fine with the breast cancer I had because I'll get nicer, newer ones next time." But that's offensive to a lot of people, and I've heard that said multiple times. So what things that should we be careful of? And obviously guys are the worst, I'm sure. But what's some things that people need to be aware of, what they say and not say when they're around somebody that's dealing with what you went through?
I literally had no less than 10 people say, "Oh, well, at least you'll get, new Barbie boobs."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah. And they're trying to come up with something to say because a lot of times nobody knows what to say. So they think what they think would be okay is not going to affect somebody else.
Yeah, and the best thing people could say, honestly, is to be honest and say, "I don't know what to say."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because so
and
many
and then
things.
not only does it not hurt the person's feeling, then it starts a dialogue.
Mhm.
And honestly, I encourage women who are going through this, be an advocate for yourself and other people. Tell people what you need. Tell people how you're feeling. Don't expect them to know because they've never been through this.
Yeah. I would say let the person who is sick lead that discussion. Because if they're okay saying something that Christina Applegate said, then that's okay with them. But if they're not, don't be the one that says that.
And to your point, I know what post you were talking about because I know you read the memory that I post every year because it was my monologue about said post. That particular person is a dear, sweet person. I know there was there was absolutely no ill intent whatsoever.
No.
But to that point, people sometimes don't understand that they're saying something that could hurt someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm this far removed, I'm not as hurt by it, but I'm 8 years. Somebody else is just starting.
Yeah. Or didn't make it.
Right. So when you see a post like that,
it's more awareness to let people know, think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, I get it. But I haven't been through what you've been through. There was a young lady that died a few years ago, and we had did some stuff for her, and I wanted to go see her. I didn't really know her, so I went and visited her, and we didn't really have anything to talk about. So we just kind of sat there and watched TV and talked about whatever's in front of us. And that was kind of helpful, and I think to keep her mind off what was about ready to happen to her because she didn't make it. But yeah, it's odd conversation, one for people because they don't know what to say. But if you kind of let that person lead the discussion who is sick, I think it would help things quite a bit.
And if you feel awkward, tell them that. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what to say. I feel awkward. Are you okay with just being in this moment or, do you want to talk about something else?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just awkward.
Yeah. I mean, totally. Yeah. I mean, even with your own family, sometimes it's awkward.
Yeah. So what's next? Are you done with surgeries, or what are they going to do? Is this you're going to have to carry this pack around all the time? Or are they going to be able to do something for your heart?
I think I'm down to, I think you have it for another 35 days. I had to wear it for 90.
I didn't know you had it. Of course, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, well, I try to disguise it, but it's kind of hard because literally it weighs a ton. But I guess you need to.
So then you're going to need shoulder surgery after
Right.
that. For
I
carrying the thing
literally,
around.
my neck, I need a massage is what I need.
I've got somebody.
But so after this comes off, then we'll talk about next steps. I have what they call, I have no blockages in my arteries. So just to be clear, no arterial blockage. So
That's
that's
good.
off the table. But what I have is what they call a left bundle branch blockage. And what that is, it's actually an interruption of the electrical current to the lower chamber of the heart. And it literally will just blip out for like a millisecond, but then it causes the two bottom chambers to be off. So they're not doing it at the same time like they're supposed to be.
Huh.
So next up, we'll be dealing with that, which could mean surgery, could mean a pacemaker. I don't know yet.
Wow. Yeah.
But yes, just to remind everybody listening, this is all because of chemo.
Yeah.
When one of the tests that women will get when they're, or anybody honestly that's on the type of chemo that I was on, they will do ultrasounds of the heart during treatment to make sure that there's not any drastic changes in the heart. I never had any, but 8 years later, it was just enough. It just got worse over time in small increments, and now here we are. So, just because somebody beats it doesn't necessarily mean they beat the treatment, because if the cancer doesn't get you, the treatment will in one way or another.
Yeah. Have you had any, you hear people having survivor's guilt. Have you ever thought or had any of that stuff go through your mind?
A lot.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. Because one of the people, Laura, that I was talking about, I forgot we'd done some WOKY commercials.
Yeah. I struggled.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And high school classmate of ours, Tony.
Instant. It was unbelievable. Yeah, I think obviously you saw the same messages I did. She was diagnosed, and 2 weeks later she was gone. Maybe not even 2 weeks. It was insane. The most insane thing I'd ever seen go so fast. I get frustrated, and it seems maybe because we're more aware, but it seems like it's coming up more and more. Mm-hmm. And I really think it's in our foods. I think it's in our foods and our water. And that's what I believe. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. But I just think our food is so full of pesticides and stuff, and people say eat organic, but even organic, it only has to be a percentage to claim that the food is organic. So I don't think we're getting away from it unless you have a farm and you don't spray your farm with pesticide. I just don't know. I don't know how we're going to get away from this.
It's it's definitely in the foods, especially packaged foods, super processed foods, a lot of fast foods, most fast foods. I also think that we are seeing, I'm not going to call out any particular medications, but I think some of the things that we take for other things, we're seeing over time that it winds up causing cancer years down the road.
My mom's liver cancer, the doctor told me that he thinks it was a medicine that she had taken sometime over her lifetime, but he's not 100% sure which one, but that's what they think is what caused her liver cancer. She took anxiety and depression kind of stuff a lot, and, they pump these medications. I'm actually watching something on Hulu called Dope Sick, and it's actually disgusting what these pharmaceutical companies have done to this world with medicine. But yeah, it's something, because they're prescribing anxiety and depression medicine more and more and more every day. And I think that's probably what caused her liver cancer, because she didn't drink. If anybody should have it, it should be me and my dad. Liver cancer, but not my mom.
Yeah.
She didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do anything.
Yeah, I think there are environmental factors that we can't get away from either. I personally look up in the sky. That's not normal. What are they spraying?
Yeah.
When I see 8-10 chemtrails up in the sky, that is not normal.
I had a medical professional tell me one time there's studies, and actually I saw it on a Louisville Metro map, that people where we live, south of 65, west of 65, have extremely higher cancer rates than people on the other side. And obviously there's chemical plants and stuff out where we live, but it's kind of scary to think about that. And dumb me, we've never moved. But knowing that information is kind of scary.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, Rubbertown's been there for how long?
Mm-hmm.
And then, they started building up along the river. So, like I said, environmental factors that, unless you move to the boondocks, how do you get away from that?
Yeah, and it's tough when you got kids in school and stuff like that, uprooting them. It's just tough. So, well, Tammi, thanks so much for coming in today. It's been a great discussion.
Well, thanks for having me.
Sharing everything. So many people go through this journey and they just want to put it behind them and never talk about it again. But we've got to get information out there to people. One thing I was going to ask, though, is did you have this in your family at all? Was there previous history of your mom or aunts or anybody with breast cancer?
None.
You just had the lucky straw.
It's so funny you said they should pay me. I actually had 6 different entities waiting for me to sign a waiver so they could take a piece of my tumor to study it because,
Can't you sell that?
One, it shouldn't have been a tumor, and 2, I absolutely no history on either side of my family.
Throw that on eBay. I mean, they're making a killing off of it. Why not see if any other doctors are willing to pay for that? So,
but if them studying a piece of me helps them come up with a better cure.
Yeah, but they didn't reduce your bills because
no,
of
they
that.
sure didn't. Because we didn't get into that discussion, but I was 1.3 million in true bill charges.
Holy smokes. That the insurance covered, they didn't cover, or that's just flat out bills?
That's flat out billed, but then, they discount it because of negotiated rates, and then the insurance company picks up what they pick up. But yes, I mean, it was well into 5 years after treatment, I was still making payments.
That's insane. We had Alan, Alan Loney. We had him on one day, and we actually need to do it again and open some of these bills. Of course, he's probably burnt them, but they made no sense to us. One would say $200,000 or $300,000. You'd flip it over, and the back would have $600,000, and then you just never knew what they were going to have to pay. And I think he just threw them all away. I'm not sure after Elaine died if they actually came after him or what. But
yeah. I'm truly lucky because I work for an insurance company, so I can make heads or tails out of an explanation of benefits, and I could marry it with an actual bill that I got in the mail and try to make sense of it. But even me, as somebody that's been in insurance for 34 years, there were sometimes I couldn't make sense of it.
I don't get it. I don't know why. I think the whole game is to keep people confused so they don't know what to ask, to be honest. So, but anyway, well, thanks so much for coming in and sharing today. It's great talking to you, and love to have you back sometime maybe and kind of talk about how this heart thing's going. It's crazy. Anytime.
And if there's anybody that would like to reach out to me, I actually have a Facebook page. It's Team Tammi. It's all one word, and it's TAMMI, or just my regular personal Facebook page. Yep. Yeah, you had quite the following there for a while and still do. So you need to tell more McDonald's stories that really reel people in. We need to make that a story on YouTube on our channel. The McDonald's Chronicles or something like that. Yeah, I've been told that I need to start videoing it because if it's not on video, it didn't really happen. That's so funny. Kelly, how can people help Shirley's Way?
2021, we're almost over. We're looking for $1,010 monthly donors. We're almost there money-wise. We've had several small businesses step up and donate $100, so thank you so much for that. But if you're looking for a charity to support, make an end-of-the-year donation, I guess, shirleysway.org. You can go to our website there and sign up to be a monthly donor. And subscribe and check out our next podcast episodes. Yeah, we got lots of videos on YouTube, lots of podcasts, and yeah, businesses are stepping it up. That's the pattern. Small businesses are doing $100 a month, and individuals are doing $10 a month, which is pretty amazing. That's really helped us out a lot. All right, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.